Well, welcome everybody to this May 2024 conversation in Three Principles conversation. I'm Christian McNeill, and I've been doing these for quite a number of years now. I think 8 years, and
Really?
yes, and this month I'm really delighted to be joined by my friend, a friend and colleague, and even coach, Dave Kibby. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we have. And this
Oh,
is
me too.
this
Mm.
is part of my, I'm very keen on doing whatever little bit I can to get this work out into the world. And I love having these conversations, and I hope you will really enjoy it too. If you're on live, please feel free to come in. I think Dave will give you a kind of heads up when he's ready for that. Please feel free to come in with any questions or comments. And if you're watching the recording, I just hope you get something really excellent out of this. So, the Dave, I've forgotten the title of our of this month's this month's call. I have to
You're
look.
not relying on me for that, are you?
But in a sense that the title is less important than the subject matter. And I have known you for
Mm.
quite a long time. I saw some of these Facebook reminders from I think 8 years ago, maybe it was nine
Oh,
years
wow, really?
of retreats
Well,
that we have been on, and
yeah.
we've been interested in exploring this whole question of how what who human beings are and how the minds
Mm.
work and so on, and
Mm.
having our different takes on that. And I've been very intrigued by some of what you've been posting and what you've been doing lately.
Mm.
Um, and and as I mentioned, I did that series of coaching conversations with you as coach
Mm.
last year, which was wonderful. And perhaps
Mm.
we'll come back to that bit, not so much my experience, but what you offered there, because I thought it was an inspirational idea.
Yeah, thank you. Mm.
That idea of just putting making a suggestion. Here are packages that are available. There will be a coaching contract, and pricing it initially at a no-brainer sort of
Mm.
price. And so many people, I told so many people who struggle to build a practice and get clients, about your approach. But it was funny, most of them couldn't actually get round to instituting that. And I just thought that's nuts. It was a
Oh, yeah, that might be
wonderful
fun to talk
blockchain.
about later on
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. But before
putting a
that,
bit of context around that might explain why people couldn't actually. Mm.
oh, good. Right.
Mm.
Well, let's park that for now. But
Yeah.
the real what was really interested in me was I had an insight a couple of weeks ago around the law of attraction, which quite frankly, until recently, I've just thought was a lot of nonsense, a lot of
Mm.
wishful thinking nonsense.
Mm.
And it 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 was something that you posted, and also something that Dominic is it Scafidi? Is that how you
Mm.
pronounce
Yeah, 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 yeah.
posted it with Deborah Simmons, and I suddenly there was a shift in my perspective, and I thought, oh, what the law of attraction is talking about is it's a description rather than a set of instructions of how to get the Maserati, or the
Mm.
trophy wife or the trophy husband or whatever. And it just
Or maybe all three,
oh yeah, ideally. um and it just hit me like a train. And what really struck me is it's a description of what of the this is how I heard it, of the thinking that I am entertaining, that I'm not aware that I'm entertaining.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
And it's
Mm.
so helpful because I first stumbled across the principles actually a long, long time ago, around about 1990, and I read a book, which was an
Wow.
excellent book. It's one of Joe Bailey's book, The Serenity Principle. But as I read it, there was so much emphasis on how we're creating our own world through thought, but it was kind of conscious thought. That was the emphasis. It's not actually, it doesn't actually exclude the
Mm.
unconscious, but I knew because at that point I was quite newly sober. I'd experienced all sorts of trouble with compulsive behaviors. And I knew that my biggest problem or not was not what I knew I was thinking. It was like all of a sudden I find myself doing something I really don't want to be doing. And it's like I've had a shift. And so I knew that my problem kind of lay in this invisible world, or the world that didn't seem to be accessible to me. Perhaps everybody around me could see it clearly, but I couldn't see the thoughts and beliefs and values that I was entertaining. And then I had a spontaneous shift with one of those, which was around money. And I had, even though I was a professional person at that time, I was a reasonably successful lawyer. And I was always broke at the end of every month. I was, today I would say that, describe, I must have been running some kind of thought pattern, all
Mm,
at a subconscious level, that no matter how much I earned, it was just more was spent each month, and
mm,
it was in a constant place of sort of struggle and not quite enough. And oh, thank God, that it's payday sort of thing. And and then one day I had an insight. So this is before I knew about any of this stuff. I had an insight. And the insight in itself is probably not that important. But it was basically, if you want to be wealthy, Marcus wasn't even bothered about being wealthy. I just didn't want to be broke. If you want to be wealthy, you have to spend less than you earn and invest the rest. And of course, the
sure.
content of what, the title that one gives the insight isn't really the whole of what happens, because there was a huge shift from there. And
Mm,
literally from that moment of clarity around money, that pattern was dissolved.
wow.
I was no longer, broke at the end of every month. I was living within my means. And gradually sort of improving from there. So that's it, to bring it back to the law of attraction. That that didn't come into that particular insight, but the law of attraction is the true description of what was going on both before, when I was running the pattern, and
Yeah.
after, when I ceased to run the pattern. The results were completely different, and it didn't involve effort and action from me. And just involved that dissolution of brought about a different result. So, to what I heard from you, you were talking about, and you were perhaps also looking at a different aspect of this, but you were talking about fitness, and
Mm,
I'll let you, tell your own story about that. But one of the things that hit me was that you were emphasizing the importance of the um kind of state of mind, or the mood, or the feeling that one is in, and in taking a different kind of action in the world, or showing up differently in the world. And I
mm.
don't want to paraphrase you further. I think you're here, you're better able to talk about that. But is there anything that from that you can kind of jump off from there with?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Wow. I was sorry. I was just kind of, I was so absorbed in what you were saying. I didn't really have any thought about what I might say in response to it, because I just thought it was the most beautiful introduction and the most beautiful illustrative description of a law. And I think you can almost forget of attraction
Mhm.
for a moment and come back to what your recognition of, like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is a principle or a law. Maybe this is how it's working, whether I know it or not. So in the same way that, Sid saw that we were creating our reality by utilizing these spiritual principles, mind, consciousness, and thought. And we've always been doing that, and we always will do that, whether anybody knows it or not. It doesn't really matter. That's the way the system is working. And so from your description, even if we just stay in the realms of what you shared there was something going on inside you at some level, the manifestation of which was some things you didn't want to have in your life. And then something moved, and what could sound like a very everyday recognition, like, you need to spend less than you're bringing in. It's like no kidding, right? But something moved energetically for you in that, because you know, I mean, there's a trillion books with that written in it. People must be sitting reading that every day. Oh yeah, no, I need to do that, and you know, and whatever, and then nothing happens, and then suddenly, insightfully, something shifted. And what I would suggest is that it's the background that shifted. It's the subconscious that shifted, and there was an energetic movement, and then what's attracted, what's manifested, if you like. And in fact, even manifested, I'll stop saying that because that sounds like effort. But now, what's attracted, what appears within your life is polar opposite, with apparently no effort and apparently not much being different. That's powerful. In the same way that we can insightfully see that it's not circumstance that generates our feelings, but it's the use of mind, consciousness, and thought. That's big. Like we could just stay there for the next hour. That's huge, right? For all of us. That changed and continues to change my life. It's a continual, like, revelatory process, a waking up. In the same way that waking up to what I'm seeing as I look around is a reflection of where I am vibrationally, where I am energetically, what my state is. My life, my lived experience is a reflection of what's going on within me. Now, I'm sensitive to the fact that if somebody's got stuff going on in their world that like really isn't great, that might not be what you want to hear, right? Because frankly, who would? But that's the thing about laws. They're not too bothered about our opinion or feeling about things. They're laws, and they become interesting to explore because of that. So I'll jump off into, shall I talk about the fitness thing a little bit? Because I think that's
Yeah,
quite,
I'd love to hear
yeah,
you.
it's very fresh, and it's so ridiculous that it just entertains me no end. So I've known Dominic for probably as long as I've known you, actually, 8, 10 years, something like that. And he's just always struck me as a really interesting guy. And I don't know, September last year, I thought I'll jump in one of his programs. Something kind of spoke to me about it, and I ended up in his small group program, Conscious Creators. And so he encouraged us at the beginning. We could play this game a little bit on the call, actually. He encouraged us at the beginning to pick something where if we were to see a miracle happen, we'd be like, oh, miracles happen, right? That would be amazing. If I could see a shift in X, Y, Z, then that would be off the chart brilliant. I'd kind of be a convert to miracles. That was sort of the spirit of it. And so so something you could do, you guys on the call live and people watching the replay or whatever, you could do this for the purpose of this call. You could pick something where if you saw like an incredible shift, it would be little short of miraculous, because logically you can't see how that would change other than divine intervention. Let's call it that for the moment, right? So we came off the first call and I was like, okay, what's my miracle going to be? And my brain typically went to, well, it could be in my business, because I was rebuilding my coaching practice, and we could talk about that later on, like the no-brainer offer. So I thought it could be that. That'd be cool. That'd be great. Could be money, you know, I like it, and I'm very, very good at spending it. So it could be that. I have a PhD in translating the stuff into material goods. So it could be that. And I was kind of like, I always pick those. They're always like my go-to things for courses. I don't know whether people here who do this kind of stuff have a go-to thing. Like that's often mine. What about yours, Christian? And then I thought, health and fitness, right? If that were to turn around, and I was to make like significant progress in that, that would be a bloody miracle, because I could see no sign of that happening. And I was doing some exercise and I was working with a trainer a bit on mobility, but it was all a bit wishy-washy and whatever. And then I forgot about it, as you often do with these things. Like, didn't really give it a second thought. Went through the program, and it was fascinating, and lots of things that were not visible became visible. And the main thing I really saw was that we're all brilliant creators already. There's nothing like anyone can teach anyone about creating. And in the similar kind of way, actually, there's nothing anyone can teach anyone about attraction either, to be honest, because we're already always doing it. So carried on, whatever. Anyway, shortly before Christmas, probably back end of November, I was wandering through. I live in southeast London in a sort of typical outer London, Kent suburb. And I was wandering through the village where I live. And I've been going to a gym that's about 15, 20 minutes drive, depending on the traffic in southeast London. Could be 15, 20 minutes, 15, 20 hours, just depended really on the A2. And it was fine. And I wandered through the village and I thought, God, I wish there was a gym nearer home. Like, that'd be cool. And I wish I could work out there 3-4 times a week. I'd love that for next year. That'd just be awesome if that could happen. And I don't really want to spend any more money on it than I'm spending currently. That would all be great. And then I forgot about it. Poddled off home, did whatever I was doing. Anyway, about 10 days later, there'd been a shop empty in the village, which used to be a kitchen shop, strangely, where we bought our kitchen in the house from. But it had been empty for 2-3 years. I think the guys, after the pandemic, had basically had enough and retired and just closed down. And I saw it was being refurbed. But that's interesting. I wonder what it's going to be. Standard things that open around here are another barber's, a restaurant, a charity shop, or an estate agent. That's pretty much what this area is full of. So I thought, well, that'd be boring. And then I saw a sign, 24 lifestyle performance. I was like, what the hell's that? So I messaged my trainer and said, because I know she knows the village as well, and said, I've seen this sign, 24 lifestyle performance. Do you know what that is? And she went, yeah, it's a gym. I said, it's a what? She said, it's a gym opening in the village. It's a guy who was under the arches, used to be involved in like a boxing thing, and he's now opening a personal training gym. I was like, okay, what's his name? And so I got his details, found him on Instagram, whatever, and phoned him. And he said, oh yeah, it's going to be small group personal training. You can buy packages where you can train 2, 3, 4 times a week. And he told me the price, and with the founder discount, it worked out at £4 more than I was paying currently. So it was exactly what I'd requested. Now, I got a bit spooked and a bit excited at this point.
Dave, sorry to interrupt, but you're very dark. Your light is coming on your face,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Is
sorry.
that any better?
Yes, that's suddenly better.
Hang
Sorry.
on, I've got more lights I can put on. How's that?
That's great. Yeah, sorry
I
to
have my sorry, I don't show my self view when I'm talking because
just
quite
yeah, no,
frankly,
one can
I'm
get
too
stuck.
good looking and it would just distract me. So I'll hide that again. Sorry about that. Right. Cool.
So
No
IRA,
longer in the dark.
IRA
So
spokesman.
no, that's good. It's good. I'll blunder on. So I was just like, this is madness. Like what is this strange dark art? And anyway, so I started training in 2024, which is what I'd requested, 3-4 times a week. And my fitness is like, I'm training like I was a kid again, basically, like when I used to play football, soccer, if you're over the pond. And then the serendipity around all of this stuff has just continued. So a few weeks back, I thought, I've kind of got the fitnessy thing sorted. It'd be really good to sort the eating out. And then lo and behold, within a very short space of time, I had 2 offers from people who could help with that. And it's gone on and it's gone on and it's gone on and it's gone on. And what I started to, and then about a month ago, I remembered the thing I'd originally said in Dominic's group. If I could see a miracle in health and fitness, that would convince me that this stuff's worth looking at. So I provided my own convincer, created the situation, so that I could see that this was worth looking at. And this and the principles dovetailing together, I just think make for the most fantastic, fascinating, and vibrant exploration and way of living. It's got my full attention.
Mm.
So much so I can hardly bring myself to do anything else, to be really to be really it because what I saw, if I ramble on, you know me well enough, Christian, just tell me to shut up and we can have some questions or whatever. But what I really saw was don't get me wrong, training in the gym is hard work, but it's hard work, or rather I work hard, but it's not hard work. It was all effortless.
Mm.
And then I started to think about clients that had appeared with no apparent effort either. And all these like light bulb moments started to turn on. And that's where I think I had a similar realization to yourself, or it sounds similar to me. I thought, oh shit, this has been playing out all the time. I just didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to spot that some of the things that I don't want in my life were in fact operating in exactly the same way. And secretly, I did kind of want them, actually. There were other benefits from them. And
I-
so it's been, we could get existential on this. It's been cool.
Is there an example of one of those that you would be comfortable sharing, of one of the things you don't want? And has it changed?
Yeah. So yeah, no, totally. So one of the things that um I've been, coaching for quite a long time, since about 2009, and I'd had some success, but not not great success. And like some months I hadn't earned any money or anything at all. And prior to that, I'd had a really successful career in business and whatever. And that I found um, difficult. I couldn't reconcile it or whatever until I spotted that beneath the surface feeling of, well, this is a bit embarrassing. Like what am I doing? There was a to coin a title of a book, an existential kink out of it. I was getting something out of the tension that was providing in my life of wanting something and denying myself at the same time. So it
Huh?
started to blur the lines between the subconscious and the conscious, and started to become, oh no, I really am just creating things, and it appears that a lot of what I'm creating, I don't know why, but what I've in fact been doing is trying to get rid of all of that rather than learning from it and integrating it. So that's very much where my work is currently.
Could you say that last bit again, maybe in a slightly different way? So when you say that that that's what
Yeah. So yeah. So if you think about coaching, right?
yeah.
Conventionally, when people could come to a coaching conversation, they either have a list of stuff that they quite like, but more often than not, they have a list of stuff that they don't want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want lack. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I want to handle it all. Yeah. So the challenge becomes, at some level you do want it.
Mm-hmm.
No, you do. That there's benefit in there. And when I say unpick, I don't mean psychologically pick away. I mean when you get quiet enough and still enough, which the principles is awesome for, you start to sense what these things are providing for you. And suddenly you think what that means, right? And again, sensitive to the fact that people can have stuff going on that like no one would want. But when you realize that you're creating responses, like you're creating that, the power that comes back in terms of your own recognition of your capacity as a creator is enormous. So when I started to get a handle on the fact that I was the architect of my own tension torture,
Mm.
like my nostrils were flaring like there's no tomorrow. It's like I'm the kinkiest git on the planet. Like seriously, this is wild. I'm tormenting myself deliberately. I'm getting off on it, basically, to want of a better word. It's and as that energy has started to, the energy of pushing things away has started to diminish a little bit, then it seems to be that. So I'll give you I'll give you another example. On Friday, or Thursday or Friday last week, I fleetingly thought, it's just a random thought came into my head. I wonder what it's like if Steve Hardison phones you. I wonder what's that. What I know, he just reaches out to people like randomly. And if people don't know who Steve is, like check him out on Facebook or read The Ultimate Coach or something like that. I thought, I wonder what it's like if he just randomly phones you. Anyway, Friday afternoon, I did an interview with Victoria Green for the Ultimate Experience in Birmingham, and talked about some of the impact Steve's had on my life from watching the videos. I've not been coached by him yet. And then suddenly, Saturday afternoon, never phoned me before, he phoned me.
Wow.
And now I'm not saying anything really. I'm just kind of sticking it in the ether. But what I've noticed, it was the same with the nutrition-y stuff. Like I spoke to one person who might be able to help me with it, and I was like, nah, I want something a bit more specific. And then suddenly, through a contact of a friend, I met this other guy, and he's now creating my nutritional plans and all sorts of stuff, like from places I could not imagine consciously.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way I could imagine it. It's completely outside, or as I think my background says, beyond imagination. I
Mm.
just couldn't think how it was happening consciously.
Yeah. Oh, no, I love to hear about things like that, and I have also had my own experiences, which I won't go on to, go on about at any length, but just really briefly, when I was moving to this house where I am now, and I've been here for 22 years actually, as long as I've ever lived anywhere. But I was moving from Edinburgh to Glasgow, and I couldn't really find anything. And then I saw this house, and I didn't even love it, but it was ticked a few boxes, and I didn't know the market. And I had this. If only I could run into Des, who was a friend of mine. I think his wife's an estate agent. I hadn't seen Des for months. I literally was in the car thinking this turned the corner, and Des was there. And not only was he there and able to help me, it was a family member that was selling this house. He was able to give me some useful but completely legitimate information.
Yeah.
And but it's not just a bizarre coincidence, you could call it, or a gift from the universe, or whatever you want to describe it. All of this was happening when I was in that kind of receptive, responsive energy. I
Totally.
didn't even I wasn't I could see that the house ticked boxes could work, but I wasn't. There was no desperation behind any of this. It was
Yeah.
just a very. It was all being held quite lightly. The thoughts were coming
Yeah.
and going quite
Totally.
light.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a real sense of ease behind it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the best way of
Totally.
putting it.
And so that's why I say, make that your priority.
Mm. The
Because
ease.
when you're in that,
Hmm.
place, if you like, then things do, and you see stuff. The reticular activating system is pretty cool, because once you start to see these way markers, these signposts, they start to light up, and they're more interesting, they're more compelling than what needs fixing about ourselves that we've made some decision about at some point. So it becomes a more interesting game, well, for me anyway, to play, than misering about, this, that, or the other. It's like, oh, look, that happened, and that happened, and that happened. And again, I don't always notice at the time. The thing with the phone call from Steve, like, it was only, I don't know, yesterday. I thought, oh my God, no, I asked about that last week. Just fleeting thought.
Mm. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, just
Um, Perhaps before we open it up to questions. Would this be a good time to sort of pivot and talk about your thoughts around the creating the packages and some of what was behind
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can. That's So I was at Ankush's coaching school. Started last September. I'm doing it again this year, and it was on the first day actually. And as I said, I'd had this fairly sort of varied relationship with my coaching practice over the years. Some years were okay, others were far less than okay. Some were disastrous. Never been brilliant. So I was a bit like, am I in or out? It was, like which way am I swinging? And anyway, the the afternoon of I think like the second day, it was like a 3-day weekend thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Saturday afternoon, I suddenly realized, it was one of those things where it comes from deep within. I was like, oh my gosh, I really do want to do this. Wow. In fact, and I'm pretty compulsive, right? Like I'll pretty much do anything to make this work. That's interesting for me when that realization comes through, because I know from the past, like things start to move. I had no idea of how I was going to do it, nothing. But then Kusha told this story of a guy who'd created a no-brainer offer in the States when he was as part of Steve Chandler's ACS coaching school, Advanced Client Systems. And I remember when I heard that, thinking, I bet I end up doing something similar. And then the thought just disappeared. And anyway, on the Sunday afternoon, so the final afternoon of the weekend, I was like, right, if I want to make this thing work, I need to get my coaching practice to full ASAP. How am I going to do that? And then the next thought was, I'll do a no-brainer offer, right? And then my heart sank, right? Because this might sound really weird, but the thought of going out to the market at like, I think it was 10 quid an hour, I did for like 5 to 50, filled me with dread. Like I'd have found it easier going out at 5 for 500, to be really honest. But the
Mhm.
thought of going out at that price and people not wanting it, I was like, oh my, like, that would just be the worst thing since sliced bread. So, but anyway, the impetus was too strong to stop me. It was like, well, I'm doing it. It's kind of like kill or cure, make or break kind of thing. So on the Monday, and I tried to get hold of Kush just to chat it through with him to check. Then I tried to get hold of my coach at the time, and I couldn't get hold of him either. And I'm like, right, well, those seem pretty clear signs. Just get on with it, get over yourself, and stick it out. So about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I decided what sequence of social media and groups I've got that I was going to do it on. And I decided the number of people I wanted. And so I put the offer out. And there was a trickle of, a trickle of acceptances. And 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 then I originally decided I wanted 20 people. 20 was like the marker for full. And it got to, I don't know, about 10 o'clock, half 10 at night, and I was at 18. And I thought, I could go to bed. And something made me go, if you go to bed, you're you're the same as you were before the first weekend of the school. You're just stopping. Don't stop. Like just keep going. And I was like, I don't even know what keep going is. Like, so anyway, that I thought, okay. I looked down my friends list and I thought, who are people I know who I think would be really interesting to work with, who might be receptive? And I just started banging messages out, like a mad guy. I mean, it was everything marketing 101 would tell you never to do, right? Like, I've got a coaching offer, 2 places left. Do you want it? It was about that unsubtle. I don't know whether you even got one. But and I banged them out on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And anyway, by about 10 or quarter past 11, it was up to 24 people. And that was a really pivotal moment for me. It was like, wow, I got there. Like I didn't know if I could, and I got there. Anyway, by the next morning, it was like 40 something, because like people from the US, and anyway, that's a whole other story, right? Craziness. But the point of the story, it's not really a ooh, go me story. The point of the story is when you get these glimpses, and you find this if you explore law of attraction a bit more, when you see it, you're seeing the entirety of something which is already available for you. And your only job there is keep out the way and let it happen. So when I'd seen the opportunity to create a full practice and I'd seen a route from doing it, that was already a reality. It was only my own, it was only ego that was like, oh, you can't do that. What will people say? How will you ever put your prices back up again? What about the people who are already paying you a lot more than that? What will they say?
Mhm.
All that kind of mental jive. And as long as I didn't cave to that, which I managed not to on that occasion, you can just let it play through, because those things are, they're already imbibed with all of the how you would ever need. It's already in there, and your only job really is keep out of the way while it plays itself out. So yeah, that was the no-brainer.
Well, cool. And that's really interesting. I didn't know some of what went on before, although I feel very fortunate I was able to take I think I was at your next iteration where you
Yeah,
were
yeah, 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 yeah,
trying a
yeah.
little
I
bit,
think you're
although
right.
it's still a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No-brainer plus a bit. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it was brilliant, brilliant.
yeah.
And I know that you what you're talking about here is that experience of the internal shift and that
Mm.
internal, sort of guidance and guided action and so on. But it is also just that, the practicalities of that, of, something like that. I mean, I just think, I'd love it if more people were hearing that and doing that, and it's a kind of win-win, for especially for people who are newer to the world of coaching and teaching. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting actually is because there's a number of ways of hearing it, but one way of hearing it, which a group of people did, was, oh, I see. So a good tactic is to do a no-brainer offer. That's a way of hearing it, but that isn't what happened.
Mhm.
That isn't what happened. So people I know who heard it that way and tried it, it generally didn't work very well for. If you follow back to source, to inspiration or wisdom or attraction, whichever you want to call it, something moved me to do that. And if people were more willing to keep their eye on the something that moves them versus someone else's movement, that would change everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in all the stuff I do now, my encouragement with people is like if you're asking the question how, it's too late.
Mhm.
You're lost in your own mind, right? Because that was all encoded in the original insight. In the same way, your shift in attitude to money was the new behavior was all encoded in the insight, which is why it felt effortless.
Yeah.
All of my training, shift in nutrition, and everything was all encoded in the asking of the miracle. It's all the same. They're just different ways of describing the same inside out based experience. So that was the key defining thing I saw. Now, for some people, I know of a couple of people in different parts of Europe who had a similar like, oh my goodness, I could I could go back to people who wanted to work with me and create a package at a different rate, and went off and did it and filled their practice. They didn't do it at the same price point I did it, but
Mhm.
they took the energy of the
Mm.
offer
Mhm.
and moved that into a new form. And that's I think that's the powerful thing. Otherwise, we become like mimics. Oh, well, I'll just do what so and so said because they said that's how you do it. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, there's something more powerful for us on offer if we're willing to hang out for it. Pick up the energy of the idea and move with that, and then see how that plays out perfectly for you in your own way, in your own form. And how it plays out for me and how it would play out for everyone on the call, everyone watching the replay, would likely be quite different. But the impetus, the inspiration could well be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Lovely. Lovely. And it's something I'm very aware of in doing these conversations. You know, I really, they're broadly supposed to be monthly, but they don't actually, you know, they're certainly not 12 a year,
Mm.
but it's, um, without being too woo woo about it, you know, I do allow myself to be moved by
Yeah,
um, yeah, you know, a guest that inspires me, or you know, who's up to something that inspires me. But I know, you know, when it's and I find them immensely enjoyable. It's a
yeah,
lovely thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And you can see that by the number of people who registered their interest in it,
Mm-hmm.
even from just like the couple of lines that you wrote. So I think Abraham Hicks says 2 minutes of inspired action is worth a year of hard work.
Nice, and that appeals to me immensely.
Me too. Every day, and I've seen it a million times. It's so difficult to try and grind out what inspiration can deliver in a heartbeat. But we're in a world where grinding, committing is exalted. You know, the Thriving Coach program that I created, which actually started back in February. I'd filled about half the places, and I was like. And I made a couple of posts on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to just be shouting about a program every day. That's not appealing. I don't want to do that. How can I do it that would be really fun for me?" And my word is entertaining. If I find things entertaining, I'll do them. So how can I do it that will be entertaining? And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll start the program, start sharing all the stuff, right? And I started on Ash Wednesday, so first day of Lent,
Mhm.
and and then I'll stop on Easter Sunday, and the people who want to join can then pay and join, and the people who just want to do that can just do that. So I did it like a test drive. Easiest program I've ever filled.
Oh, very cool.
Piece of cake. But same
Very
thing. It's just inspiration and then going with it, just running with it.
lovely, lovely.
Hmm.
Dave, are you up for a few
Oh,
questions?
always. Yep.
I don't know whether anyone's got any questions, but let's make some space and see if
Yeah,
anybody.
if they're there, why not? Hmm.
I know Laura's working and probably can't come in, but Jerry, Catherine, anyone else, would you like to? How is this landing? And Jerry,
Hey Dave. Hey Christian. On the law of attraction, how is that similar or different than the three principles? I come across the three principles a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and I know absolutely nothing what you're talking law of attraction. So what is the comparison or how, what's the similarity or what of what you think on that?
Um, I don't know whether I'd say they're so the way I'd say they're similar is that they're operating principles, whether anyone knows it or not. That's the similarity. So to me, the principles are the spiritual nature of human experience, how that works. And then law attraction is how the apparent outside is a reflection of what's going on for us energetically on the inside. So the principles explain how we get to the energetic stuff on the inside, and attraction shows us, law of attraction shows us the implication of that in the outside world. I'm not saying that's right. That's just what popped into my mouth in the last 30 seconds because I've never said that before. So I don't know. But that's what
Yeah,
occurs to me.
I was just curious what your thoughts was on it because I'm, like I said, I haven't checked out anything on the law of attraction or anything. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of
oh,
people treat law of attraction as I don't want the life I've got. How do I get a better one? In the same way, actually, that you can treat the principles as I don't want these feelings. How can I fix that? You can end up making anything band-aid, essentially, but there's something deeper to see about both of them. Like rather than trying to get categorize things as feelings I don't want, feelings I do, things I don't want in my life, things that I do, if you see something more fundamental about the nature of that experience, the whole game shifts. That's what it looks like
thanks,
for me.
Thanks, Dave.
No, great question. Thanks, Jerry.
I wondered if I could throw my tuppence worth in there.
Yeah.
It seemed to, because it seemed to me that, you know, I got that. Yes, I got that. Very quickly. The first weekend, really, that was on the sort of principal thing. You know, that. Oh yes, my feelings are coming from within. They're not coming from the world. They're coming from within. And there's a sort of obvious, you know, there's that very almost obvious, you know, you get out of bed the wrong side, you're in a bad mood, you fight with everybody before you've had breakfast, kind of thing. And that's at its most, where you're most aware of it. And then there's a subtler expression of, you know, the thought, feeling, two-sided coin, which my mentor Mavis Carn has been, you know, really helpful in pointing out. She said that she has this expression: you can't slip a thought past the body, and that every
Nice.
thought we
Yeah.
have, as well as having an emotional, I mean every big thought, you know, I mean, you know, that every, it has an emotional component, but it also has a bodily component. And she invites clients to sort of focus on where is it in the body, you know, and even that change of focus to continuing to run the thought, perhaps not fully consciously, to looking at the outcome will shift someone's state of mind, at least subtly, make a little bit of room. But the extra bit, the missing link for me, you know, last week or the week before, when we touched base, was around oh, it's the deeply unconscious stuff, you know, that I kind of, that I can only surmise is there because I keep getting the same results. There's something going on that I don't even know how I'm doing it. And the law of attraction, what I got is that's the explanation of why I am getting, you know, wanted
I
or
think
unwanted
I
results.
think that's beautiful, because I think that links to what Mavis is pointing at, right?
Mhm,
So that deeply held stuff is reflected through the body.
mhm,
So what we're always after is a feeling,
mhm,
and then we just manifest least path of resistance circumstances that we know will generate the feeling for us.
mm,
So you kind of, which I think is what I hear and what you're saying that Mavis is saying, so correct me if I'm wrong, you pay attention to the feeling and the location of the feeling, and by shining light, attention on the feeling, then that brings that in awareness, and that allows the system to self-correct, and the feeling to be gained in a way that would be more consciously pleasurable to the individual. That's how I kind of see that.
yeah, lovely. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that also in that observation, there is, you are taking responsibility.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
because as it changes without anything outside changing, but as the internal experience changes simply through awareness or attention or observation, the only explanation can be that it's an inside job, not an outside job.
Totally. So, and that can be quite confronting. Like there was something. It was really, trying to think what it was. It was really small for me today, but I remember, you know, there's kind of like moments you get where it's like, oh, I don't like that, and I just caught it, and I thought, oh my God, I do. At some level, that is my choice. I'm creating that. I don't know what the heck that is about or whatever. And I'm not particularly trying to analyze it and get
Mhm.
caught in more thinking and generating more thought storms, because that just sends me spiraling off. But it was like you said there, Christian, it was like I wasn't putting it outside of myself anymore. It was like there is some beneath that surface feeling of, oh, yuck. There's something going on that I like, that provides, and what in this one I was like, God, there's a lot of energy in that yuck. There's a lot of power in it. Like that is a strong, that is me in my strength
Mm.
doing that. And as I started to put the attention on the strength aspect, that feeling of yuck started to break, because it was kind of like here, solar plexusy kind of region.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that contracted sort of feeling of like, oh, sinking. And that just started to, and even there was a bit of a creak in kind of rib area, like, as the tension starts to come out. And I suspect that's why I'm just spending so much time effectively doing body work in the gym, like pushing the body, or the body wants to be pushed harder and harder at the moment. It's intriguing. Yeah, so I love that. I love what Mavis is pointing to in that. That's powerful.
Very nice. Yeah. Catherine, were you? I don't know if you were looking as though you wanted to come in. You're most welcome. Do you have to unmute yourself?
Sorry, I was trying to do something on my laptop when I'm on my phone. Crazy. I think what really fascinates me at the moment is like the unconscious part of it, because I think that obviously being hidden from view, you kind of know there's something that's there, but you can't see it. And I just wondered if you had any kind of like, I don't know, anything you can say to that, really.
Yeah, I love that, Catherine. Instantly, what came to me when you said it's hidden from view, I was like, nah, just look around you. You're living in it. You're literally living in it. Your interactions with yourself, with people around you, with the wider world, with your possessions, with your finances, with your everything. So I love it. That's such a brilliant thing to bring. Because it flips the whole thing from being like, well, where the hell is it, to, oh my God, like where isn't it? Which is just, and you just gifted me seeing that as clearly as I've ever seen it. That's it. It's like it's right here. It's in the apple I'm eating. It's everywhere. It's in every interaction. It's when I get cross with my family, it's littered everywhere. Instant feedback mechanism, which is so clever. You want to know how you feel? You want to know what's going on for you? Hidden from sight, look around you and it will show you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
No, thank you. Awesome, Kat.
You just kind of...
You see, what's cool about this stuff is there's no hierarchy in it. Do you know what I mean? We can literally sit here and vibe off each other.
Yeah.
Because the way you asked that question, I was like, oh my God, it's clear as day. It's right here. Like, because the universe is a level playing field. There is no hierarchy in the universe. Or you could say there's a hierarchy which is non-hierarchical. In the same way, there's polarities which are also not poles at the same time. So there is good and there is bad, but there's nothing inherently good or bad about good and bad. Yeah, they're just perceptions. So when we drop out of this whole idea of someone knows and someone doesn't know, you're literally in a co-creation, which is amazing, because then, as someone who's speaking, you don't have to hold on to a position of appearing to know things, which is just knackering, quite frankly. I've done plenty of that in the past. Like you can just simply be an open vessel. And Hardison is the most brilliant example of that, of just being able to learn absolutely everywhere, creating himself as that. It's staggering to be around, to watch. It's amazing. So I love that you asked that. Thank you. I just...
No, thank you.
Yeah, wicked.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Dave, we're coming towards the end of our time.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of sorry, Catherine, just ignore that. You mentioned a couple of things that you're doing. I don't know if this is your opportunity, if there is anything that you want to share with the group or on the recording. And I can see you read on the notes on YouTube.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, I've just started a program. I haven't got any open programs open currently. I wrote down the other day a title for a sort of like an entry level cost exploration. So I probably somewhere around like I don't know, a couple of £100 for like a 12-week exploration, like something where people could just come in, and the title I wrote down was Living an Inspired Life. I wonder whether that's interesting. I've got a small group thing which just started last week, which the title is up there somewhere, which is Beyond Imagination. And that really is a deep exploration of attraction and the principles, and seeing what's viable that we can't even imagine, because the imagination is a very limited, finite thing, you know, but we've got access to everything. So, but I had wondered about whether to run a more open program called Living an Inspired Life. So maybe if people listen to that and think, oh yeah, I'd love something like that, you know, and it would just be this kind of format of conversation and questions, and really rubber hits the road. That's the bit I'm really interested in. Not so much just like getting off on talking about thinking, but about the practicalities and what the practicalities of our lived experience are showing us about our understanding of these fundamentals, of these you know, laws, and the other spelling of laws. Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's what came to mind instantly.
Well,
That
it
could be
sounds
something
wonderful. I
fun
hope
to
you
do.
run it.
Yeah, that could be something
Keep me
fun.
posted.
Yeah, no, I will. I think that could be fun. Just something where, yeah, just something where people could come and dip their toes in, and we can explore together. I get quite bored at the idea of trying to be an expert. I've done a lot of that, and it doesn't appeal to me very much. I really like, just like I learned so. I mean, seriously, Catherine, I learned so much from the way you asked that question. Not just what you asked, but the energy from the question, like threw my brain open in a really powerful way. So thank you. So yeah, that could be cool. Maybe we'll do that.
Lovely, lovely. Well, Dave, we're just about out of time. Your website is
davekibby.org.
right, and so people can find you there, and I'll put.
Okay, yeah, connect with me on Facebook. That's cool.
Lovely, lovely. Well, thank you so much for making yourself available today. I know that it's
Thank you.
a busy day, so you've been
It is,
very
yeah.
your time. I've loved the call. Thank you for joining us. Those who've joined us.
Thanks for making the space, Christian. It's brilliant. Thanks so much.
Great. I'll see you soon. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. Bye bye.
Lovely